The Rihanna Cristina. We boarded the Rihanna Cristina, a Spanish tourist Quevedo type airship. Its gondola shaped to resemble one of the infamous Spanish galleons of previous centuries, except in miniature, and is richly outfitted with Philippine hardwood furniture, Fijan silk curtains, and lacquered ornamental automata imported from China. My cabin resembled a fashionable salon more than an airship berth. Let's find out some information. Good day, Passepartout. Tell me about Acapulco. They say that there are many artifacts made by Aztec artificers there. I need to go to... not Havana, I want to go to Houston. Let's just say that the quickest way to Havana from here is via Houston. Yes, I must go to Houston. Tell me about... fine. How about Port Moresby? Time for me to be off, I think. Goodbye. Useless fop. The captain of the Torres Quevedo-type airship swapped the Spanish flag from the prow to Hawaiian colors. The Mexicans are not fond of us Spaniards since the revolution, he explained. Spanish ships are turned away from the port. Surely they are not fooled, was the thin subterfuge, if it even deserved the term. What's up? Yeah, they say it's going to be snowing today at 4 a.m. Well, hopefully I'll be able to make it home without dying. He shrugged. It is a little game we play in the interest of trade. We send our Filipino crew members to negotiate for us, and the Mexican customs house adds a hefty surcharge to our taxes. The captain clapped me on the shoulder. Do not worry, my friend. This is not my first run. Okay, as long as it doesn't cost us extra. But news. Fog said to have crossed the date line, but will extra day be enough? Probably not, no. I am in roaring health, but we must make haste. We're doing our best, Phidias. We smelled the smoke first, and then gunpowder sweetened my blood. Acapulco was just visible in the distance, wreathed in lightning flash of smoke. Oh, come on, Acapulco can't be at war. KB the flashlight. Nice. I'm in the attic using my tablet to hear KB in as a flashlight. If I talk louder, does the light get brighter? I could turn the attic into a disco. It was about fire in Brute's attic. It was impossible to see what's happening. Though it did not stop the crew from offering several dark, ominous guesses. Bye-bye, lid. That's like, you guys, I have to save Seven's lid. And that's not a euphemism. She really dropped a lid to her soda. Was the Spanish trying to retake Mexico? I demanded of the captain, who looked bewildered. King Amerio hardly writes me informative love notes, he retorted, before he gripped the brass-handled telescope swinging from his belt. He turned to the crew. I need a volunteer to climb the rigging and see what is up ahead. I will do it, I volunteered rashly. Even Monsieur Fogg appeared too pale by a shade at the idea. The crew stared at me with a mixture of pity and awe as the captain wordlessly handed me his telescope, a pair of aviator goggles, and a red handkerchief. Wave the handkerchief when you are secure, and we will raise the ship to give you a better view. I took a deep, centering breath before I climbed up the hatch and grabbed onto the ratlines. The wind buffeted my face, and the roar of the twin Antoinette engines seemed amplified. Behind the comforting curve of the envelope, I saw an endless, dizzying stretch of sky and the Pacific Ocean glittering far, far below. I closed my eyes and heaved myself up, managing to grip the foot rope with my toes as I swung out and away from the gondola. I was braced against the wheeling sky, an impossible drop by nothing other than my trembling hands and feet clutching the rope. I reached up blindly with my right hand, and the worn rope snapped, taking with it both of my handholds. I swung out precariously, clutching one fluttering end of the rope as my other hand scrabbled in the air and my foothold loosened. I lunged forward and grunted, letting my toes slip and trusting that my hands would find firm purchase. For a heart-stopping moment, I felt as though I hung entirely untethered in the air, a suspended endless moment of sky, bright insanity. And then the rough hemp dug painful furrows into my hands, and I was safe. I was safe. I made it to the widest cross-section of the envelope and waved my red handkerchief. I felt the hum of the engines grow sharper as the airship began to climb. Each shudder and yaw was more pronounced. Ooh. And I laughed and laughed and laughed with the joy and wonder of it, the utter impossibility of it. We humans are such ingenious creatures, my friends. It is so easy to forget when one's feet touch the ground. I extended the telescope as the ship bobbed in the air and peered through it at the bay of Acapulco. Thronged with warships firing cannons at the city and lit an unholy fire as they listed and sank. I saw their flags and shuddered. I will not recount how I climbed back down, how many times I slipped, how my palms bled and itched, how nearly I pitched into the ocean. I will tell you I made it back inside. And I made my report to captain and crew. The French army is besieging Acapulco, I said, and then I fainted dead away. Seemed like a good time to pass out. Brass telescope ship pets are good price in Port-au-Prince should we decide to use it. Phidias! Oop, I was going to clean up Phidias, but I could not. The captain called the passengers and crew together for an announcement in the morning. We will leave the French to their business in Acapulco and head to Panama. No, we must continue to Acapulco. I insisted, not wanting to deviate from our chosen course. We will let such a small matter as a siege divert you, Captain. He gave me a fulsome glare. How will we pass the blockade then, monsieur? He sneered. I could give them some money, but I don't know how much. Could make some of it back in Acapulco if we make it, but if we don't, we're down on that money. We're going to take a chance on hoping I talk as well as I think. I told them my half-formulated motion, though I was nervous to speak. I will stitch a French flag. I announced, we will pass by the besiegers without remark and must merely avoid the Mexican troops. The captain agreed to my notion grudgingly, and after an hour's work with some borrowed dresses, we hoisted our new flag in place of the Hawaiian colors. Ha! I am a genius. Not particularly honorable, but effective enough, we tethered at Acapulco no worse for wear. I hoped we would survive the besieged city in similar style. Ha! we kept our date in Acapulco. Several of our possessions could make good money here. Yes, they could. Alright, Houston, Dallas, where's the good stuff? San Pedro, Panama City, and Atlanta. Port-au-Prince for 4,000, Jesus. Wait, I know these are good. Wait. Port-au-Prince, Dallas, and New Orleans. Valuable here, Omaha, Dallas, okay, so here. 500 and good, alright. Valuable here and in Havana, Dallas, and Panama City. Good. Alright, that's good. We can bring our brass telescope over. Oop. Let's try that way. Okay, that gets rid of one of our bags, too. That's helpful. Alright, and then we have valuable in Panama City, Burlington, and Atlanta. Dallas, Burlington, Dallas, and San Pedro. Dallas, Burlington, San Francisco, and San Pedro. We might save the space. Going to Dallas seems to be where all of our money is. Houston and Dallas. Port-au-Prince would be okay, but I'm not certain. We have a 45 caliber rifle, valuable in Dallas, New Orleans, and Port-au-Prince. Mate, of interest to sour, earnest, and soldier types. Sugarcane, valuable in Salt Lake City, San Francisco, and Burlington. Oop. That is not what I wanted to do. Please go back to the store. Ah, damn it, they closed. Alright, let's plan our... Oh, we can't even plan our route. Oh, we have to, like, wait a day at least in order to find out how we get out of here. The French had tenuous hold of the Mexican port of Acapulco. The bay was crowded with ships firing upon each other, and airships rained fire and misery down upon the sloped roof buildings. French soldiers fought Mexicans in the smoke-wreathed streets. We stayed the night in a villa run by a local woman whose instinct for business had survived even the conflict raging in the streets. I asked how we might leave Acapulco, and received a surly reply. In a coffin. We are under siege, or have you not noticed? Crap. There's got to be a better way out of here. We can't be stuck in Acapulco. We decided to explore the city, and better to find a way to leave. We kept to the French-held docks. We headed away from the fighting, to the outskirts of the city. A risky venture, considering our white skin would mark us as foreigners in a besieged city. Still, I had little desire to participate in my country's colonial brutality. Or set myself between two armies, and I hoped we could avoid the clash of soldiers altogether. We had not gone far before we were scooped up by a Mexican patrol of irregulars led by the smiling Madame Gonzalez Pena. You don't look like French army, she remarked in Spanish with a look of surprise. I doubt the army has this much luggage, I replied, gesturing with our cases. She frowned. You're a ridiculous man. What on earth are you doing here? We're going round the world. She broke out into wild, uncontrollable laughter. That is the stupidest thing I have heard all day. I thank you for it. With a rifle, she gestured to the side street. Go that way, out of the fighting. How can we leave the city? I demanded. There are automatic carriages, even airships heading north, she replied. You should avail yourselves of them. Leave this place before reinforcements arrive, for they will not welcome you. Feeling rather as if she had understated the matter, I was resolved to take her advice and leave Acapulco as soon as we could find the means. Alright, so San Francisco to Acapulco if we wanted to. San Pedro. Nice. Can we get to Houston from here? Yes! And Dallas, I think, is north of Houston, yes? Yes, Dallas is north of Houston, but we can go to Houston. How do we get to Houston from here? Arrives Tuesday, $600. Leaves tomorrow at 5. Fine, we can stay an extra night, as long as we don't get shot. Oh, how many baggages? How many bags can we take? 3. We can take 3, okay. We have 3 now, so we can only take like 1 or 2 more things if we want to buy anything at all. Sugarcane is good in Salt Lake City, San Francisco, and Burlington. The rifle's really good, but unfortunately it's not great. This is good in Port-au-Prince. Well, we're not going to Port-au-Prince, so let's trade up. Okay, and we'll take the sugarcane just because we have the space for it. Yeah. Alright, so let us, we're not going to depart, because we can't yet, but we're going to Houston, 600 pound. Alright, it is 5 p.m. tomorrow. Alright, we can negotiate, but I'm not going to negotiate it. We have not enough money to negotiate, so we will wait a day. We stayed another night in the villa. It was comfortable enough. Though the sounds of explosions made me lie awake at night. Yeah, it was uncomfortable, but that's okay. We can depart now to Houston! Embarque. Plus 13. So we're going to take a bit of a hit, but that's okay. Phidias is doing fine. The caleche we found was not automatic, but occupied by one Monsieur Jameson, American missionary, and Madame Amandine... That's an insane name. Madame Amandine Jameson, his white French Creole wife. I do not know who you fellows are, Jameson cried as he clambered aboard amidst the sound of gunfire, but get yourselves aboard, won't you? We did not need to be asked twice. I will help Phidias stay a little bit cleaner. I'd like to see if there's a way we can get to Dallas from here, but we fly to Acapulco by caleche, all of us clinging to our leather seats as the mechanical horse breathed steam into the air. I am grateful to be away from Acapulco. I cast a nervous glance backwards towards the besieged, smoke-wreathed city. You should give your thanks to God, Monsieur Jameson said decisively, looking as though he were about to force me to my knees then and there. Madame Jameson lifted her hand and made a mocking face behind its shield, and I had to look away lest I laugh. To avoid any further temptation, I spent the rest of the day silent, watching the landscape as we wound our way north to New Orleans. Oh, Converse. Damn it! Both Monsieur Fogg and Monsieur Jameson were sleeping when Madame Jameson reached her hand out to me. I looked at her hand, then up at her face, which was settled into a strange, intent expression. Take my hand, Monsieur, please, she begged in the strange, slurred New Orleans French. Okay, I took it in my own, and her fingers tightened about mine and then stroked very deliberately down my wrist. I shivered. I felt her sigh and relaxed into her seat, though her hand was entwined with mine. I sat rigid as a rock, images of brimstone and hellfire coming unbidden to my mind. I feel, Madame Amandine said into the air, very alone sometimes. When you speak, I can imagine that I am a young girl walking down the Champs-Élysées in Paris without any cares. She said nothing else, and we stayed like that. Until our companions awoke, many hours later on arrival in Houston, where we departed quite promptly. Aww. See? Passepartout is a very nice gentleman. Several of our possessions should be worth money here. Hooray! Alright. Valuable here in Port-au-Prince, Chicago, and Atlanta. Good. Valuable here and in New York. Good. Valuable here and in Atlanta, Miami, and Chicago. Good. And Dallas. Dallas. Good here. Chicago, New Orleans, and Miami. Sell for high prices in some markets. Yeah, it doesn't say where. Good in San Pedro. We're not going back to San Pedro. I'm just going to dump this. Port-au-Prince, Port Royal, and Atlanta. We might make it to Atlanta, because that's in Georgia, so... Bonus if I do. Cold compress, resting recuperation, stalwart official, English poetry. English and posh foreign types. Well, why not? We'll grab a deck of cards too. Okay, so we got a little bit of money out of that, not a lot, which is unfortunate. We have to rest, so we'll pass the night here. Yeah, we only have 13 days. Another night, and the clock was forever ticking upwards. As night fell... Ooh. I attended to Monsieur Fogg. We have to get him cleaned up. Yay! We've strengthened slightly. Okay. Explore, because we have to figure out how the hell to get out of Houston. We should be able to go to Dallas, I hope. Apparently we can take a boat to Miami? Oh, Havana. Okay. Wait, we can't get to Dallas from here? How can you not get to Dallas from Houston? Although I must admit I don't like Christmas at all, I don't even have a candle or such, and no tree. I have enough when I visit every part of the family those days. Yeah, that's good, Meister. And you don't have to undecorate in January. Think KB make a come from behind win? Probably not. Houston is a checkerboard of streets, like something cooked inside a waffle pan, but most of its squares are empty plots, with what small development there is concentrated around the river. Of the buildings, there are several bear obvious scars, either from the violence of the country's civil war or else the lawlessness that most likely followed. There are people enough here with scars as well. I took a mule-driven cart to the bank of the river where I met an old man from an old cut, with an old cut from eye to chin. He was tossing stones into the river, a rod laid across his lap. I should be fishing, he declared, but I don't feel so hungry today. You have no work? You're a foreign type, I'd say. French, though not from New Orleans. I am from Paris originally, I told him, hugely pleased not to be labeled as English for once. He nodded. You've come a long way. Paris must be something else compared to this hokey place. He smiled. You need a tour of the city? If you can spare the time, I replied with a wry smile. Oh, I can, he answered, seeing as there's nothing here to see. He gave a deep laugh and returned to throwing stones into the water, trying to hit a tin can that was bobbing in an eddy in the stream. Do you know how I might travel on from here? I asked. My employer and I are going round the world. Are you now? Well, if I were you, I'd go that way. He lifted a finger and pointed south across the glittering water. Get the hell off American soil just as fast as you can. Go to Cuba. There was a war here, you know. Do you like it here, monsieur? I asked. I cannot guess. Don't know, he shrugged. I've been here all my life. Was born over on one of the plantations. You can just about see. He pointed away, squinting a little. Worked hard, worked well. Mother died of yellow fever when I was so high. But my owners were decent enough. Nowadays, I do not know what to do with myself. I was stunned. You cannot miss being a slave, I declared. No, I don't. I don't at all. But all the same, he shook his head. I've never been one to come up with what to do next. That's just not who I am. He smiled briefly, a moment of cool sunshine in his eyes. I always thought about growing oranges. I thought that might be something I'd enjoy. Then you should do it, I enthused. Oh, it's not so easy as that. I need some land and some oranges, and not that many of those who has either wants to give them to me. No, I'd better stick to the fishing for now and see what comes along. He shook his head, chuckling under his breath about something, then tossed his line back in the water. I sat with him for a while. He did not seem to mind, and I found his presence quite calming after all our breakneck racing round the world. Perhaps he reminded me somewhat of my grandfather, who I had barely known. Okay, well apparently we can't go north, like at all, which sucks. Valuable here and import to Prince, New York, and Washington. Yeah, it's only 120, which sucks, but I'm gonna get rid of that suitcase in its entirety. How much for the cold compress? 12 pounds? Okay. That does make us feel better. Well, I guess we're going to Havana. Or possibly, oh, well, we can get to New Orleans for 120. No. We'll head to tomorrow at 10 a.m. Okay. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. we're going to New Orleans, I guess. So we sleep. New Orleans, yeah. Our room was decent enough, but I was sure I would not sleep. Day 68. We will attend to Monsieur Fogg. Okay. So we're keeping Monsieur Fogg up and going and doing his thing. Embark. Let us go. Yep. We're fine. Let's roll. So we're gonna take our carriage to New Orleans. New Orleans. We found a caleche similar to the one we had taken out of Acapulco for the single day's journey along the coast of New Orleans. Thankfully, this one was unoccupied, with no lonely souls aboard except ourselves. Converse. I am at your service, Monsieur Fogg. Why, my dear Passepartout. What have you learned about New Orleans? You have to visit New Orleans if you like jazz. How about money? Our funds, we are quite comfortable, I must say. You have been most cautious so far. Ish. What about Washington? You might be interested that one can travel aboard the Paul Revere from Washington to Ponta Delgada. Very good. Okay. Whoa, if we can go from Washington to Ponta Delgada and then from Ponta Delgada to London, if we can cut that, I mean, that's literally the end of our trip. But it's like 4,000 pounds to get from Ponta Delgada to London. We don't have that kind of money. The ride was rough but fast enough, and we made good time. I can barely settle into the swaying rhythm of the carriage when we caught our first sight of the Mississippi, a thick brown ribbon of water whose curve we followed up to the much mythologized city of New Orleans. New Orleans? Yeah, New Orleans. Alright, here we are in New Orleans. Let's see. This was worth $2,100 in Dallas, and it's basically dead to us now. Bye-bye. You're dead to me. Worth $2,400 in New York. Ah, New York's north of Washington, though. Valuable in Chicago, Houston, and Atlanta. Darjeeling tea. Value in Port-au-Prince. We can go to Atlanta. We don't really have anything. Let's see. Can we get to Atlanta from here? Georgia. Yes, we can. Okay, so we're gonna go to Atlanta. Arrives Tuesday. 3 days. Oof. Can we negotiate? Gentleman traveler set which should yield results. No charge tomorrow. Woo! No charge. I can go tomorrow. All right, 11 a.m. tomorrow. Sweet zombie Jesus. I love it. All right. So let's get ready to go. I met Death in a smoke-wreathed red-lit bar in New Orleans as the jazz band struck up another tune. He offered to buy me bourbon. Perhaps in 20 or 30 years? I replied archly as some of the other patrons snickered. Death pulled off his mask and revealed handsome café au lait features and dark green eyes and extended a skeleton hand to me. A fine costume, I remarked. Merci, mon cher. I am Death at our neighborhood Mardi Gras, and I am practicing my role. He took my proffered hand and brought the back of it to his lips for a gallant kiss. He flicked me a rather unmistakable look under his dark lashes. To be so clearly desired by Death was unnerving. I found my feet shaking and stepped back. He tilted his face to the side. Do you find my color displeasing? He asked with a lazy smile. Not that. He laughed low and pleasing. It matters little, mon cher. There are many white men in New Orleans who do. In spite of it, I am a free man. Death resumed his mask. I do not believe in prophecy, but the chill of his cold fingers on my face sent a thrill of fear through me. Abandoning dignity, I ran from the bar, nerves rattling like knuckle bones in a cup. He did. We can leave today or we can explore. He leaves at 11 a.m. 7 to... No, we're gonna go before we explore. Normally I'd pay much more attention to you. Yeah, but the time... It actually ticks down continuously. Like, continuously, so... When you gotta go, you gotta go. I could have been boned by Death, yes. I could have gotten a white bone from Black Death. There's some confusion for you. Sorry, my nose is itchy. One moment. The Piedmont Airline from New Orleans was not, in fact, an airline at all, but according to its advertising, the fastest railway in America. Hardly a bold claim, considering there were only 2 truly significant lines in the continent, but nonetheless, it gave my master some satisfaction when he saw the slogan on the wall of the compartment. Converse. Greetings, Monsieur Sullivan. Evening. I would like to go from Atlanta to Washington. One can also travel this way to Washington, I understand. Speaking of trains, I understand Chicago can be reached from Winnipeg aboard the Winnipeg and Duluth Railroad. That's great! I need to know about... Oh, playing cards. Whist. I'll cut Monsieur Sullivan a new deal. Why, yes. Tell me about Washington. Not for me, I think. Washington to Las Vegas? Surely not. Now, anyway, are you headed back to Europe? Yes. We're headed for London as fast as possible. I'm always wanted to see Sistine Chapel. Can you tell me about Atlanta? Atlanta is burned down in a fire towards the end of the war. It is not yet recovered. Atlanta to Marrakesh? Have you heard that the quickest way to Marrakesh from here is through Port-au-Prince? No. How about from Atlanta to Port Moresby? Enough talking. Goodbye. Okay, so found some extra routes. Duluth to Chicago. That's a good cut. Alright. We settled ourselves in a carriage with one other occupant, an extremely large man who introduced himself as Charlie Sullivan, a lad from Birmingham, who had grown into something the size of a warehouse building. Who was most impressively sculpted, especially around the neck and upper arms. His mustaches, were nonetheless perfect. I asked what had taken him to New Orleans, and he grunted, "Boxing." I could see he was most likely an excellent boxer, assuming he knew how to operate those colossal arms of his. However, Monsieur Fogg's interest had been increasingly sharply throughout the conversation. "You are trained?" he demanded keenly, "or self-taught?" "I've got a manager," Sullivan replied. "He tells me what to hit." "Excellent, excellent," Monsieur Fogg enthused. "I want to hear all about it." I sat back and enjoyed the conversation. The details of boxing are more intricate than one might expect. And hearing the business of cut and thrust, delivered in Sullivan's so very English tones, was quite informative. We disembarked a little later at Atlanta, and I sighed with relief, as though sharing a compartment with Monsieur Sullivan had resulted in less air to breathe for the last few hours. The amethyst should be quite valuable here. Yes! Opens at 7 a.m. Well, we can wait a day. And we are going to go to Washington next. It only takes 98 pounds to get there. Thank you! It goes tomorrow at 10 a.m. Ooh, we have like no time between now and when the market opens. Okay. So we're going to crash for a day. We have 10 days to get to London. Atlanta, at the heart of Georgia, is a busy city with construction on every corner. Americans, it seems, do everything by hand. And there were no signs of automata or even steam-powered lifters. Instead, work gangs with pulleys and ropes lifted log beams and stone into the place. Still, the mood of the people was positive enough. "We may not be much to look at today, mister," declared Stanley Goodman, owner of the Goodmans and Goodmans, a curious hardware store, bakery, and bookshop into which I stopped to buy something for lunch. "But in a few years, time will be state capital, and after that, who knows? It'll be the lost city of Atlanta, with the Coke facility." "And to what do you attribute Atlanta's great success?" "I won't lie to you, mister. Being burned to the ground helps you put things in perspective. From here, we're building up and together." I was impressed with the ambition on display. Since the town seemed to be more to me to be more a crossroads of the railways than a city in its own right. And what place did railroads have in humanity's future above the clouds? Wait, don't worry. Atlanta's also a hub. They were a hub for railways, now they're a hub for airplanes. Alright, they open at 7 a.m., so let's get moving. I don't want to explore for 4 hours. We have to leave at 10. So we're not spending much time exploring the United States, unfortunately, because we are running low on time. So I'm waiting for 7 a.m. so we can sell our amethyst, and then go, go, go. Amethysts! Worth 220. English poetry, other crap. Valuable in Winnipeg. Well, we're not going to Winnipeg. Cotton flour. Valuable in New York, Winnipeg, and Havana. False passports. Railway whistle. Part of the railway man set. Gideon's Bible. Of interest to sour, excitable types. Shaving kit. Hooded cloak. Part of the urban traveler set. How much? 63 pounds? Little spendy. I own one of two. That was the other half here. Okay. Our completed silly driller set should help. Alright, we must go, sir. To Washington. Embark. Starting in 30 minutes. We're going! We have no time to wait.